Good evening. Today is October 12, 2020, and this is the 20th episode of New Paradigms. I'm your host, Sargis Sangari, the Republican nominee for the U.S. Congress in the 9th Congressional District of Illinois. Before we begin our podcast today, I want to wish the Italian-American community a very happy Columbus Day. Christopher Columbus's courageous voyage was the catalyst that initiated over 500 years of immigration to the Americas by people from every corner of the world, all of whom came here who were seeking a better life for their families, just as my family did when we immigrated to the U.S. in the 1980s, and just as the family of my guest today did. The original intent and also the spirit of Columbus Day was to stoke pride in our young nation. The roots of the holiday can be traced back to the 18th century itself. After gaining our independence, the United States at that time searched for symbols that would set it apart from the rest of Europe. The first reported Columbus Day celebration was held in New York City in October of 1792, marking the tricentennial of Columbus's voyage to the Americas. When Columbus Day was made a federal holiday in 1937, it quickly became a source of dignity and self-worth for the Italian Americans, and more importantly, the Catholics, in light of the discrimination that they were going through at that time. In fact, less than 5 decades before the holiday establishment, 11 Sicilian Americans were lynched in New Orleans, which is the largest recorded mass lynching in American history ever. Again, a blessed and a happy Columbus Day. My guest today is Jesus Solorio, the Republican candidate for the U.S. Congress, House of Representatives, Illinois 4th Congressional District, who is also the proud son of Mexican immigrants and lifelong native of Chicago's South Side. Jesus discovered the importance of persistence early in his life, growing up in Cicero, the unwavering dedication of his parents, which they provided to him, that gave that firm foundation for him and his 2 sisters, which he now uses as part of his campaign. A graduate of the Chicago Public Schools, Jesus' first job was working at a local restaurant besides Kelly High School, where he learned the value of a hard-earned dollar, and also at the same time the struggles that independent businesses face in today's economy. These formative experiences and the values that they represent have helped guide Jesus professionally and also his upward journey throughout the role of finance, government, and nonprofit management, which have led him to launch Solorio Strategies, which is a digital company firm specializing in creative marketing strategies. Jesus has been a strong proponent of the legislative initiatives in education, workforce deployment, and also immigration at the state and also national levels, with parents who worked very hard to overcome a language barrier in order to succeed. Ensuring future generations receive a quality education is a priority for Jesus. Jesus witnessed firsthand the difference that dedicated educators, overworked, and spared tooth thing can make in child's life, and is grateful for the needed encouragement and guidance that they gave him in his years. So in 2013, he was part of a team that sought to open a STEM charter school in Lowell Village to give parents the opportunity to expose their children to fields in science, technology, engineering, and also mathematics. Unfortunately, due to bureaucracy and red tape and special interests, the school was never approved by Jesus' vows to continue promoting educational opportunities and also choices for parents and students in these underserved communities. Politically, Jesus has worked hard to guide outreach and also coalitions for U.S. Senator Mark Kirk, Governor Bruce Rauner, and the Illinois Republican Party, where he led initiatives to increase Republican participation in Chicago and also Cook County. Currently, Jesus serves as the chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly of Illinois, in addition to serving on the board of the Chicago Young Republicans. Jesus, it is a pleasure to have you here, but before we introduce you to our audiences, we are going to see a short video about your background.
America is at a crossroads.
For over a century, determined immigrants with strong family values have come here to build one of the most prosperous middle classes in world history.
Main Street economics helped families thrive in neighborhoods where children received a good education and played in safe streets without fear of violence. The American dream still calls people to our shores.
But for many, the dream has become a nightmare.
Chuy Garcia and the radical left are working to erode our freedoms and destroy America from within by taking us down a failed road of crony socialism.
Law-abiding citizens expect honest governments. We need to end backroom dealings and corruption.
We need to make the economy work for us again, to ensure all Americans can access quality health care, to offer every student, rich or poor, the same choice of education opportunity. We must work with law enforcement to protect our neighborhoods, and we need to promote a safe, legal immigration policy based on America's needs.
I'm Jesus Solorio, and I'm running for Congress because we need bold new leadership for a better
Hey, Zeus, it's good to have you here, buddy. And with God's blessings, a wonderful commercial. Jesus, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the district and where we at today in the campaign.
First and foremost, Sargis, thank you so much for having me on your show. As you mentioned, I was raised on the south side of Chicago and never thought I would ever run for office. But just seeing everything that has happened in the last couple of months, you know, from the looting to the increase in crime, I decided that I needed to do something. So I stepped up and decided to run for Congress in the 4th Congressional District, which I'm not sure if you've seen the district, but if you go to my website, solorioforcongress.com, I have a map of the district. It's one of the most gerrymandered districts in the entire country. They literally took out a scalpel, went block by block to carve out this district. And again, it encompasses 80% of Hispanic communities in Chicago, and then goes west into Cicero and Berwyn, encompasses communities like Little Village, Pilsen, Humboldt Park in the north side, Hermosa. And so I'm just sick and tired of seeing all the corruption that is destroying our city and our state, quite frankly. And so we need, like I said, we need bold new leadership because the current congressman isn't doing anything for our communities. He's only a spokesperson for the entrenched special interests that are basically taking our kids hostages and making it impossible for people to get back to work.
And so why did you decide, and I'm assuming because of the 80% of the Hispanics, as you say, fall into the district, but was that the overall reason why you decided to run in the 4th?
So I grew up in the 4th, like you mentioned. I was raised in Cicero my first couple of years, graduated from grammar school there, and the local high school, it wasn't safe. So my parents decided to move into the south side of Chicago so I could attend a Chicago public schools because they felt that that would offer me a better educational opportunity. But as many students like myself, I saw crime even in our high school. And so I want to make sure that kids have real educational opportunities and make sure that parents are back in the conversation and the equation. But right now what we see, especially here in Chicago, is that special interests pretty much run every level of government. And so the parents have been taken out of the equation. They're not allowed to decide where their kids are going or what their kids are learning. And so in 2013, I was part of a team that worked hard to bring a STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics charter school into Little Village. But unfortunately, because of the special interest, we weren't able to open the school, even though we were thinking outside the box. We were bringing parents back into the forefront of education. And so I want to do that. I want to be a fighter for the families in our district. And again, the current congressman isn't doing anything. He's just a spokesperson for the teachers union that are holding our kids hostage.
No, I know personally because for us, this Sunday morning, we heard the news that District 65, this is where it covers Evanston and Skokie, which are within my district. Skokie is, of course, where I live. My kids go to public school, has made a decision through their superintendent that when the schools open up, the students are going to be allowed to return to the classrooms, are going to be the black students. And the report said that they were citing a pandemic, as they called it, of inequality and racism and classism that preceded the COVID-19. Now, unfortunately, it makes those black students a target. It divides the community. For individuals like me and you, and I am a person of color, but because of how the federal government looks at you, we're not even considered as being individuals of color. So in my particular case, all those certain students that are attending those Skokie schools, to include my kids, and also the ones that are attending Evanston, will not be given the same opportunity to return to classes, which I really don't understand why this type of a mentality is out there, why it exists. I don't know what they're trying to achieve. I don't think they're actually helping the black community by putting them in these positions. But maybe I'm not saying something. Is there something you've seen from your background as an immigrant of Hispanic background that maybe you could give us something that gives us an input or an understanding of how these superintendents are thinking, or maybe how these teachers are looking at the landscape?
Yeah, so when I decided to run for office, I made a commitment that I wanted to tell the truth. I want to tell voters the truth, that it's not institutional racism or, white America against black Hispanic America, or even rich against poor. It's really what I call cheat street against the Main Street America. And cheat street is all the special interests that dictate what as Americans we're able to do. In this instance, the Chicago Teachers Union is taking over the conversation and isn't allowing parents to decide whether they want their kids to return to a classroom or not. And so that's what I'm fighting for. I want to make sure, again, that we get our students back into the classroom and make sure that we get people back to work. My community is suffering, and it's because of the failed policies that the Democrats have instituted over their 80-plus years of having control here in the city. We need jobs. We need access to quality jobs, not just a $15 minimum wage job, because that's not going to help people get out of poverty. What I want is quality paying jobs, and that's not a conversation that we're hearing from my opponent or even the Democrats. And so with education, the reason that our kids are not succeeding is because they're not being properly prepared for post high school. And so 80% of the kids that graduate from Chicago public schools and attend a local community college, they have to take remedial courses, and that basically puts them at a disadvantage from the beginning. So we need to look at how we're preparing our students, what we're teaching the students, and showing them that there are jobs out there, that not a 4-year degree is necessarily the right option for everyone, but there are options, and you can go into an apprenticeship program. I want to make sure that we're promoting that. Those are high quality paying jobs.
No, look, I agree with you. I also think that we need to have possibly 4-year schooling that looks at technical aspects of certain type of jobs. Look, 30% of all Americans have actually a college degree. A group of those, almost a quarter plus of those, have a 4-year maybe community college. That means 7 out of 10 Americans today working on the workforce actually don't have a college degree. And one of the problems that we run into, and I recently met a young man while I was, trying to meet the constituents. He came here overseas on a F1 visa, which means that he stays in school here for those visas. His parents send him here to get a high quality job. He falls under that one visas, which are the ones that actually bring that technical capacity back. With some of the changes that have taken place in immigration law now today, it makes it very difficult for him to get a job. The problem is that if we want to turn around and say, well, we want to give those jobs to Americans, well, guess what? Americans are not qualified to be able to sustain themselves in those jobs. And I think what happens is that it's going to take, as you said, an overhaul of our educational system. You're looking at decades to be able to change it to hopefully where we can finally be competitive globally to be able to get those high technical jobs that we're looking for. And I'm glad that you've actually worked hard to try to get them STEM education to our young men and women in your community. And unfortunately, as you said, the bureaucracies and special interests step in. And we have those individuals who graduated from college that are teaching other professors on these socialist ideologies that do nothing more than either put the Black community students in a position that they're being targeted, or they're isolating others and saying that you're not worthy of attending school because we have made that decision based on what we believe is racism in this country. If that was the case, then why do we still have people immigrating to this nation? I don't know.
Exactly. And look, there is no doubt that there are racist people in this country, but that doesn't mean that America is a racist country. And the reason that we're not succeeding right now is, again, all those failed policies that have been instituted by Democrats. Look, we've lost thousands of jobs. Thousands of high-paying manufacturing jobs have gone overseas and into Mexico. And so I want to bring those jobs back. I want to make sure that we're bringing quality, high-paying jobs back into the district. And education, we have to rethink the way that we're educating our kids. Right now, there's about 1 million jobs that go unfilled every single year in specialized manufacturing. And the pandemic, COVID-19, has shown us that we need to reshore up those manufacturing jobs into a district to make sure that we're not stuck or face what we faced at the beginning of this pandemic, where we had a shortage of PPE and other supplies that were critically needed.
No, look, I agree with you, and I go back to the piece that America, yes, there are individuals who have, racist viewpoints on issues, but that doesn't mean that America is racist. It's also important to note that each year America observes the National Hispanic Heritage Month, and that's from September 15th to October 15th. Which is where we celebrate the history, culture, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central and South America itself. The observations started initially in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week, as you know, under at that time President Lyndon Johnson, and then was extended. Yeah, by President Ronald Reagan in '88, and then we are where we are today, where we are looking at celebrating it from September 15th and ending on October 15th. The importance is, people ask, why are you starting mid-month? Is because September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for a lot of the Latin American countries like Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and additionally Mexico, where your parents immigrated from, and Chile observed their independence days on September 16 and September 18, respectfully. And also we have, as we noted today, Columbus Day, October 12th, falling within those 30 days. So look, I think overall, when you have a country that you live in that celebrates other countries' independence days and celebrates the immigrants from those countries, I really don't know how it is possible for the people who are supposedly educating our children in these school systems, to include these superintendents, to turn around and make the policies that they're making today.
Exactly, and that's why I'm concerned. I don't have children yet, but I'm concerned of our education system. Like I mentioned earlier, our kids are underprepared to either go directly into the workforce or to go into post-secondary education. And look, this is one of the most welcoming nations in the world. And I want to make sure people understand there's a difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration. And so I want to make sure that the communities that are here are able to have access to quality paying jobs. And additionally, I want to make sure that our healthcare system is being fixed. We saw recently during the destruction of our city because of the looting and the failure of Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx not willing to prosecute the criminals. We saw, dozens of local pharmacies that had to close down to fix and rebuild. I mean, my mom had to get her medicine refilled, but unfortunately we had to wait an additional week for the local Walgreens to open up. And this is affecting people in my community directly. And we need to make sure that we get a new leadership that is going to start enforcing the laws and start putting the interests of hard-working Americans ahead of those special interests. I mean, education is just one example. Healthcare, we have a conglomerate with the American Medical Association that basically dictates who gets to become a doctor, what universities get to teach those courses, and if the Democrats really cared about Medicare for all, they would be addressing that issue, but they're not. It's all a talking point to them. We have to make sure that we're increasing the pipeline of doctors, not only specialties, but especially in the family care area. That's where we're seeing a lot of shortage, because doctors graduate and they want to go into another 5-6 years to specialize to make more money, and that's understandable. They're coming out with a huge debt burden, and so I want to make sure that we're addressing the problems. And I know the district very well. I have a vision for the district. I have a plan to address many issues that are affecting our communities, and we're not seeing that from either my opponent or the Democratic leadership here in the state of Illinois.
Well, I don't know if you're going to see it, to be honest. I think they're just comfortable with the machine cranking out the votes for them, and hopefully this election, the people in Illinois wake up and realize that, I've never said we shouldn't have two parties. We need to have two-party system. That's how our system is designed. But the other party is having some major issues internally, and majority of those countries that I mentioned to you, which we're celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month, they have gone through the whole process of socialism, see what's happening to Venezuela, and to try to bring that here just is not something those people that have left those nations from those communities want to see. I do know that as I said, you're the chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly of Illinois. Tell us a little bit about what their goals is, what their mission, what are we looking at as far as the Hispanic community, which is the largest growing minority in the United States, and what are they doing to kind of consolidate together these organizational structures to become that powerful bloc that is needed to be able to buck against, I would say, both Democrats and Republicans when it comes to issues of interest for the Hispanic community?
Yeah, I like to say President Ronald Reagan, eloquently stated, the Latino community are Republicans, they just don't know it. And so I've been traveling the state of Illinois, making sure that we're showcasing that, yes, in fact, there are Republicans and our policies are helping not only the Hispanic community, but every American across the state. And so I've been traveling the state, making sure that we're engaging with the community, making sure that we're getting people registered and getting people to get involved in the political process. A few weeks ago, I organized an event with the Back the Blue organization in Little Village because I wanted to bring the two communities together, and the response was extremely positive. We don't want to get rid of our cops. We don't want to defund the police. We want more protection. We want to make sure that the elected officials are doing their job and start enforcing the laws. And so I've been traveling the state, making sure that we are communicating and engaging with the different pockets of Hispanic voters across our state.
No, I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I know that that's one of the reasons also that you've been put on the board of the Chicago Young Republicans. How's the younger generation looking at things, Jesus? Are we anywhere close to really linking into them, or are we still way apart from the older to the younger generation?
Before COVID, our events used to be well attended. We would have 50, 60, over 100 people come to our events. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to postpone many of our in-person events. But there is enthusiasm among the young voter bloc. And so we've been making sure that we're communicating, making sure that our meme game is strong, because the community, the young folks really want to get involved. And you might think Chicago is such a blue city, but there are many young professionals that are starting to see the light and are starting to want to get engaged with the Republican Party.
Jesus, I'm very confident to know that we have a young man like you in the process right now. What do people need to do to help you as far as your organization? Where do they need to go? How can they help the race?
Yeah, so like every campaign, we need volunteers and we need financial resources. If you can donate an hour or two or a couple of bucks in my campaign, share my Facebook page. Share my content and let people know, especially if they live in the 4th Congressional District, that there is an option this election, that there is an individual that is fighting for every family in the district. And so that is tremendous help, just getting the word out there, helping me get connected to voters. If there are events that are still coming up, I'd love to come out and attend those events. Again, my website is solorioforcongress.com. You can reach me there. I have all my content up there. I have direct way that you guys can connect with me.
No, I know the people think that it's a small thing when people share your Facebook page, but it's very important because it helps you, especially with the lockdown on COVID. I started my new program, New Paradigm, strictly because of the fact that we couldn't run a traditional campaign, and this gave me an opportunity to talk to the voters directly. And at the same time, I was able to bring individuals like you and others who are running for Congress to try to help my federal candidates here. Jesus, a question I've asked everyone: have you received any support or funding from the Illinois GOP or from the national GOP at all?
Good question. I haven't received any financial support, but there's a lot of other great candidates out there like Jeannie Ives and Esther Joy King and Ronnie Davis that really need the resources. And so I know that they're spread thin right now, but they've been very helpful with sharing my content, sharing my information anytime I release new information. So they've been good at that. On the financial side, obviously that can improve a bit more, but I know there's a lot of other highly contested races.
Well, look, I hope that you keep this up. This is face and name recognition is very important in these races. Same thing for me. I always say that we also need money. We still do need it and the support. I know that I have the FOP that is going to be out helping me out as far as knocking on doors on the 17th of October. And I'm hoping that people can come on and help us, especially in the various areas of my particular district, like Edison Park, and any bit helps. even though the elections are nearing. But the biggest piece is, regardless of the endorsements you get and the support, you have to go out and vote, folks. If you don't vote, it means nothing. All the money in the world means nothing if you're not going to just go and exercise something that is free, which is your right to vote. So those polling places are already open. In my district specifically is the Skokie Courthouse that is open, and people can go in there and vote until the 19th when all the other areas open up. If they want to vote right now, Jesus, where do they go in your area?
They'll be able to go to the super site downtown, and then once early voting begins, they'll be able to vote directly within their ward and their township.
Okay, well, that's absolutely understanding. I hope that they go out there. I hope we get candidates like you across the board. There's a couple of dates that are very important that I want to make sure I cover, specifically with October 12th. One is actually something near and dear to our heart, folks that are with the Special Operational Forces and Special Operational Command, which is on this date, October 12th. And 1961 is when President John F. Kennedy, a Democrat who loved this country, visited Fort Bragg and the U.S. Army Special Warfare Center, where actually was a location where I finished up my career. And it was a home of the Special Forces there, where he met at that time with Brigadier General Yarborough. And this is where the Green Berets were first seen on the soldiers of the Special Operational Command, which we call today, and since then has been history. And the Green Beret has been synonymous with special operators. But there's also another date, and I think this is a somber occasion too, because 20 years ago today also was the attack that took place against USS Cole. Where we lost 17 of our sailors, and this was the first shot across the bow to the America that there are bad guys out there, and there is evil ideology, and that ideology will come after you regardless of where you are. And I think one thing we learned quickly was that we need to go after that ideology wherever it manifests itself, because as we are fighting internally on these ideas that we think that this nation has to completely transform and become something that someone has taught about in history where it has failed everywhere else that they've tried it. I would recommend we keep our country as is, get good candidates like Jesus, Jeannie Ives, others, to be able to get into Congress. And hopefully, once we're in, we are going to be able to affect the needed changes on everyone's behalf. With that said, Jesus, any last word, anything that I missed that we need to cover before we sign off?
Yeah, Sargis, thank you again for the opportunity, and for the viewers out there again. The best thing you can do to help Sargis, myself, anyone else running as a Republican is to get the word out there and go out and vote. And once you cast your ballot, help us by becoming a poll watcher or an election judge. That's going to really help the Republicans up and down the ballot. So cast your vote and come and help us out on election day.
Thank you very much, guys. And again, please don't forget, for me, go to www.votesangari.com, donate, and come out and support us as we get close to the campaign time. We need people to be at every single polling place. Same thing with Jesus. With that said, we're going to leave you with a moment of silence for our fallen sailors. And this is Colonel Sangari, and this is New Paradigms.
founders of this nation did not create a land of opportunity by growing government. They did it by reducing its powers, particularly when the government of the King of England did not provide them with representation. The U in the United States originally was not capitalized, but the S in states was, meaning that the states were like semi-sovereign nations. Governance was more local and solutions were often more interpersonal rather than political. We have moved into an age where politicians act like agents of a larger special interest rather than representatives of the people, and as a result, liberty has been compromised. With your help, Lieutenant Colonel Sangari can fight this corruption and end this Middle Eastern non-democratic mentality of keeping an official in his or her seat for life, or replacing them by their own hand, pick subservient, and finally start focusing on collective American effort on actually representing the needs of all the constituents in the 9th Congressional District, including Democratic and Independent Americans, for our benefit, and not to advance the position of a single political party or person in our America again, advocating for honoring and empowering the American dream for all. Vote Sangari, honoring and empowering the American dream.
I am Sargis Sangari, and I approve this message.